Ready?
Yes. Literally.
All right, we'll call our November 14th meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. And happy to see a lot of good faces here. It looks like most of them are regulars, maybe David. Anyway, welcome. We're happy that y'all are here and keep us straight, so we need it. Anyway, with that being said, we'll move on to announcements. I have one. We had a quick little press gathering this afternoon at 2 p.m. at the Highlands Cashers Hospital, denoting and recognizing the Highlands Cashers Hospital Foundation and Missions donation of a phenomenal new ambulance to Macon County Emergency Services. So it's really spectacular in the fact that I worked on one for 15 years, but I used to have to duck. I can now stand up in one without bumping my head. You no longer have to manually put the stretchers in and out of it. It has a mechanized operation that all you do is run the stretcher in the back of the ambulance, and it will pick it up and lift it right in. And I hope that'll help with some back issues. After doing it for that many years, I understand. So we're grateful to both Mission and Highlands Cashers Hospital Foundation for doing that. It was, it's nice. It's a tone setter, and again, it all boils down to taking it off the backs of Macon County taxpayers through the goodness of some people that saw a need and wanted to help. So, anybody else?
I'd like to say, glad to have Mr. Culpepper.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, just an item of housekeeping. If you'll recall, back in August, we received the recommendations for the grading license. The planning board had discussed that. The grading license portion of the sedimentation erosion control ordinance. Again, that was in August, and at the time, Chester had advised the board to review that change they were making to the grading licensure in correlation with the entire ordinance. Become familiar with the ordinance and the role that this section will play in that ordinance. With that being said, that will have to have a public hearing. So I was thinking and spoke with Chester today. We were thinking at the December 12th meeting to go ahead, if the board so desires, and get that item on the agenda, get an advertised public hearing for that December 12th meeting so we can discuss those changes and hold that public hearing.
Or alternatively, if you don't know that you have general consensus to move forward with it, at least either tonight or the 28th or in December, have that discussion to see if there's preliminary interest in moving forward with it. I mean, there's obviously some expense associated with preparing the document and advertising it for public hearing and that sort of thing. And if there's not going to be support for it, the county can save a little bit of money. If there's general support for it, or if it looks like there's a consensus for support of it, then Derek is right. We probably need to try to get that moving forward. It's one of those things also that the change probably needs to be run by the folks at the state as well, as far as the sedimentation and
So December, does that give us enough time then, you think, to...
Yeah, I think that we could, if the board is inclined to move forward with those recommendations, we could probably have it ready to go in December. I just hadn't heard any discussion as to whether or not y'all are ready to move forward with those recommendations, or whether y'all needed some time to talk about those recommendations, the pros and cons of those recommendations.
Well, I'm personally ready to discuss it. Anybody else? December work good?
December.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to hold the public hearing on it in December if you want to have some preliminary discussions about it first.
I'm willing to discuss it, yes.
Okay, well, let's just discuss, and we'll maybe hold a public hearing at a January meeting.
If there's a general consensus that it looks like you want to pursue it, then that might be the appropriate way to do it.
Anything else on your announcements?
Mr. Chairman, just reminded by the Southwest Commission meeting on the 27th. Of course, those of us that meet with the DOT is at 5 o'clock. And it still says boiler room. I don't know. I guess that's still the right location. If not, we'll certainly let everybody know. So if you've not been to the Southwest Commission or to the TAC meeting, I'd encourage you to come. And also on December the 6th,
What's that date again?
27th. And it's 5 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock if you just come to the Southwest Commission meeting. And then on December the 6th, I know Derek and myself, Patrick Betancourt, and I hope some others can go to Asheville. The DHS Secretary will be there, along with a lot of others, talking about the status of child welfare in West North Carolina. So we look forward to that discussion. That's at Crown Plaza. It lasts from 10 o'clock in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. So if you're available and want to ride or go with us, I think you'll find it very interesting.
I just want to say thank you to all the people who participated in the Better Day program, and we had a good turnout, and especially the Charters of Freedom, the unveiling of that. I think it added a lot to our county. Again, I appreciate everybody who took the time to be with us, even my partner back there. Veterans Day, appreciate you.
Amen. Probably the best Veterans Day that we've ever seen. Best dinner.
Thank you. Thank you for helping organize that.
Weather was
Shields.
good. Weather was good.
All right, well, so anything further? We'll stand up, we'll observe a moment of silence, and I'll ask Commissioner Higdon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Before Commissioner Higdon starts, I certainly remember Councilman Billy Meisper, his family. Billy lost his courageous battle with cancer. Billy served not only the town of Franklin well, but the county well during his years of service. So remember, it's always a bad time to lose a member of the family, but during the holidays it seems especially tough. So remember Dinah and that family as we have a moment of silence.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to open up a public hearing, proposed Macon County Community Transportation Program application. The Transit Director, Ms. Kim. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you
Last
very
time we
much.
were looking at you on a camera, it seems like.
Yeah. Technology's great.
Where were you?
Technology's great. I was,
You in Raleigh? I don't remember.
Virginia.
Yeah.
no, I was in Indiana. We received the Propane Education Research Council Award for converting our fleet to propane. So we were up there receiving that award, and I appreciate the cooperation of the board by letting me be there and attend the meeting at the same time electronically. That was, I really do appreciate that, because I struggled with what am I going to do. So it is grant time. Already looking at FY19, can you believe it? We are in the process, or have submitted 4 applications for grant funding for next year. And I think Mr. Tate and I decided, Chairman Tate and I decided that the best way to approach this so that we meet the requirements of the public hearing as they're set forth by DOT and FTA is I'm going to give just a brief description of the program that we're applying for. And he does need to, we did not have anybody signed up to speak. And I also did not, I need to note that I did not receive any written comments. So, but after I give the explanation of the program, there's just, it still needs to be addressed, asking any member of the public if they have any comment on this. So we'll tag team it if you will.
Gotcha.
All right, so the first application that I will discuss is the 5311, the administrative application. And I managed to not bring anything with me. I had all, oh, there it is. That grant is going to be a total amount of $190,009. Local share on that will be 15%, which will equal $28,501. That's a little less than what we received for this year for FY18, which was, we've gotten an allocation for the next 5 years. For some reason, FY18 was kind of a year where we got more and then we start dropping off as the years go by. Just a little bit. Included in that request are 3 vans that will replace vehicles that have met their service life. The Public Transportation Division has changed the way that we ask for our replacements, and we can project mileage now. As long as you have met that required mileage at the end of May, they will still fund the vehicle provided that it was approved and there's funding there. The advantage to that is we were getting to a point where we were having vehicles with 180,000 miles in them before we'd actually get the replacement. So it'll be very advantageous to us. We have one that's kind of on a borderline, so it'll be 2 to 3 vans. Also included in that are the propane conversion kits for those vans. We can't take them off the vans that we're replacing because they were the old Ford, the 350s, and now we're getting the Ford Transit, so the motors are different. You have to have different propane conversion kits. So, and it also includes lettering for those vans. Also included in that request is a laptop for the mobility manager. Okay, so those are kind of the things that we're pretty sure are going to happen. Now, the remaining items, first is office furniture and training room furniture. That will be contingent upon, I've come to you before, we just talked last month, I guess it was, about the potential that we could get this funding to expand our building. If the facility is expanded, then obviously we're going to have furniture to put in it. We don't know that, but we can't not ask for it, so it's better to ask for it and then say, hey, we didn't get it, we don't need this. So it is included in the grant request. Also included in that is some paving for the parking lot that has been created alongside where the landfill had to go in and do construction to get in where they put it in the landfill. There was an area there. And so not 100% sure we'll even qualify for the paving of the parking lot, but hey, I'm one of those that I throw it out there, and if I get the money, great. And if I didn't, I didn't lose anything other than a little bit of time to put the request in. That would also pay to relocate the security cameras and the fencing, and we talked with Duke about lighting for the area. So if for some reason it does not get funded, it will be put in the budget next year, and so you'll have to be talking about it again. So, like I said, I figured, might as well go ahead and throw it in there. Maybe they'll have some money floating around that they say, sure, we'll give that to you. So that total request was $265,245. 10% of that total is $26,525. Again, that is subject to change based on what gets approved, what doesn't get approved. We won't know that until they try to take these to the Board of Transportation in March or April. So it may even be included in our requests, depending on when our budget's going into the county, and that may need to be adjusted after that. So those are the 4 programs. Total on those programs is $671,854. And the local share for that is $142,686.
Thank you, Tim. All right.
If you can have that local charity, but
No. Other than the operating that I talked about, where the grant for the $165,000, about $7,500 in county, and the rest of it, I typically ask for in county funds, and we generally end up needing less than the actual amount. For
local charity.
for the local, well, the total local share is $142,686 out of the $671,800.
142.
686. I think you have the in their packet. Yeah.
But it's a bit next year's budget, right?
Yes, this is FY19.
Yeah. Or be discussed.
The current year is, just for comparison, because usually Commissioner Higgins will ask me this, so I try to get prepared.
Fiscal year, is it not?
No, this is our fiscal year. Now, federal fiscal year obviously starts in October, but the way the state, they use the money on the state fiscal year, and so I think they're typically like a year behind with their allocation. So for the current fiscal year, for FY18, our total project expenses were $458,558 with a share of $118,835. So it's about $23,851 difference, but we were only asking for a minivan this year, where we're asking for 3 vans, some parking lot paving. That capital really kind of monkeys with what it looks like as far as county dollars go. And I did forget to mention that on the 10% on the mobility manager, the $5,160, $2,580 of that will be paid by the state of Franklin. So we'll only have a little over $2,500 in that income.
All right, a public hearing is held to allow the members of the community the opportunity to comment on transportation needs and the grant application. We didn't have everybody sign up. If anybody wants to speak to that? Is there anyone who would like to speak about the 5311 Community Transportation Program grant? No takers? Is there anyone who would like to speak about the 5310 operating grant? Is there anyone who would like to speak about the capital program grant? Is there anyone who would like to speak about the mobility management grant? Any further questions? I'm going to close the public hearing. Close the public hearing.
There's a resolution to follow within the general meeting.
So we'll be looking for a motion to approve the resolution. I presume contains all these grants that will be in detail.
It does. It contains all of them at the bottom. It also talks about,
Application.
it is the resolution. Basically, what the resolution says is that, that it's been brought here before the board. The board understands that these are the requirements of the grant funding. That, especially on the fourth one. The last one, where it says, whereas Macon County hereby assures that it will provide the required local matching funds, has the staff and the technical capacity. Everything past local matching funds, I got. But now, the other is up to you. And it also authorizes the county manager as the authorized official to, he actually technically submits the grant application. He signs the 40 documents that we have to have signed following this public
There'll
hearing.
be a number of certifications, insurances that will have to be made in connection with those, and you're authorizing them to make those necessary certifications and insurances.
And those will actually come later as well, when the federal, when FDA releases those sorts of insurances. It should be all inclusive.
We'll get a motion to approve the resolution. Motion to approve in a second.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim.
All right, item number 6 is our public comment period. We have one individual signed up. Is there anyone else who wants to speak besides Mr. Culpepper? Quiet night. Come on up. It's commission, so on the roll, correct?
Hi, council members. Not quite yet though, but thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just a couple things I wanted to put on your radar. The Belden Circle Bridge, this is the single lane bridge right behind the new Ingalls. It's actually part of the old highway. I know that it's slated for replacement pretty soon. I'd like to encourage you guys, if you know anybody at DOT, if you have any influence, let's go ahead and put a sidewalk on that bridge. Or at least encourage them to put a sidewalk on that bridge, because what's happening is the people who used to walk to the Ingalls when it was in the Kmart Plaza are still walking to the new Ingalls, but they're walking along Riddleville Road and they're crossing a single lane bridge that doesn't have a sidewalk. And if it's going to be replaced anyway, I think it'd be wise to go ahead and put a sidewalk on it so that it's safer to cross with foot traffic in the future. The next thing is the Carpenter Building. I'd like to commend you on the investment made in the future of recreation for our community there. We have an opportunity to actually link the Carpenter Community Building to the Greenway. I don't know how familiar you guys are, but Mainspring has acquired a strategic piece of property that will allow the connection behind the library all the way through to the rec park and thus to the newly remodeled Carpenter Building. That's a great idea. I mean, to me, that's pretty low-hanging fruit that should be easy to get done, that will benefit the whole community. Tying East Franklin into South Franklin, I guess, via the Greenway, I think would benefit everybody. That's about it. As a council member pretty soon, I'd like to say I'm at your disposal if I can help with that project at all. Like I said, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor, and I'd like to see it done within the near future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Anyone else? Any changes to or additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, if I could add to old business, item 10C, it's just a discussion of the SEC appraisal for the fire safety training contract.
All right. Lloyd? Justin?
One item under the report presentation, just a brief update on the trade program with Franklin High School and Southwestern Community College.
Reports and presentations. We're taking the action. Anything else? Any motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion second, all in favor? All right, reports and presentations. The treasurer there, okay.
Approximately 6 months ago, we had some conversations between Southwestern Community College and Franklin High School in regards to expansion of the trade program. Ms. Shields and I talked about this earlier. Bill and I have had several conversations about where we're at in Macon County with finding folks that can work in the trades. And what made me kind of get to think about this is the recent addition of personnel from the required Shaw Industries may be a challenge for those folks. But this talked about Baldwin, and this program is coming to fruition, and we're seeing some activity.
it looks like that the original plan of the student being able to dual enroll at White High School in Southwestern is been quoted. We don't know, at this point, we don't know how many are going to be dual enrolled, but that's the road that the program's going down. So as we see that unemployment continue to drop, I think it's going to be important that we recognize programs like this. At some point, there may be a requirement for some additional funds to help support that program. I hope it's $8,000 is what we have done. And maybe additional funds for it. But it is, we're going down the road, it's with very closely.
His word articulation being used so we used to have a relationship with Southwest articulation between the students, two schools.
Collaboration is a word that I collaboration between Farming High School and Southwestern, sharing of resources in regards to facilities, teachers, so these courses during days and night courses. So we're hoping that we may be able, in addition to garner some interest of some high school students as they go through the process of where they're going to go when they graduate from high school. We're also going to leave the door open for opportunity for anybody who would want to move into a trade, so they'll be able to go to those night classes to do that. And then our students, it would be a curriculum for them, so they'll be able to back to the next one.
So what's the next step?
Enroll.
CME?
Enroll.
And but you haven't decided yet what trades the students.
Trades are going to be, I didn't figure we'd get it off the ground if we didn't have framers in there, but once it was fit. So it'll be trades like framing, electrical, teaching there, plumbing, what we use if you want our economy for our.
Good idea. You just get the big things. We've already talked about it, getting them shipped.
We feel like we've got we're getting a lot of interest from the students. So if we're getting out of that, we'll be done. So that's part of that, the huge part of life. So we have to do it. And so we'll just see. I think it's an opportunity.
Well, the students that are participating for county SCCFTE.
Yes.
Very good. We'll move on to all business. Item A, discussion of the Board of Commissioners 2018 regular meeting schedule. We've had some discussion. We tried to have a meeting in Highlands this year like we've done in the past. It didn't happen. As chairman, we just thought it would be easier and cleaner if we just went ahead and set a specific date. Moving forward, there's also been some discussion about potentially having one in Nantahala. However, I think there's some question about whether or not that can work because of the Nantahala not being a municipality. And that's also having some, against IT. Potential IT issue.
I think you could have a meeting over there, notwithstanding that it's not county meeting
Anyway, what's open for discussion? So also, I have a conflict with the April meeting if we go on the 2nd and 2nd Tuesday. I'm good with that. I'm still going to be here. If you don't mind moving it, I'll be happy to be here. First Tuesday, the third Tuesday, and fourth Tuesday, just not the second. One day.
What is, there's nothing about budget and stuff like that here.
No.
There's nothing on the bill. Say the second Tuesday.
holidays.
Well, it's budget time. That's crucial.
We've had the discussion before about meeting in Nantahala and other communities, and it's a precedent you set. You go to Nantahala, you have to go to Austin. You go to one, the next time request you go to EFT. In Nantahala, even though it is a distance away, it's less more or less in the community. So I think the board needs to take that into consideration once you start down this road. We found that out when we did way back when we were on subdivision. We were just going to get, like David said, the low hanging fruit. Well, you don't do that. You go to one, the Holly Springs requested, you go there. It's 12 other communities, 13 other communities requested. Easily 10, you take that into consideration, and they will. And they might or might not, I don't know, but they certainly proven that. So you need to take that into consideration. Something I think when you start moving these meetings out in the community, and I'd like the county manager to speak to it. I mean, is it the information and everything? Is it the county seat? So.
You know, obviously we've been discussing courthouse security and everything like that. So, you know, we have here with an officer, I'm sure an officer could travel with us, but when you start, like you mentioned, the streaming of the meetings, a lot of people, you know, we're set up here to stream the video from the commissioner's boardroom. I know a lot of people watch that, rely on that to stay plugged in. Also, if you had an instance where we were discussing business and we needed to go access a file or pull a document, whereas now we have to go just to the office or something, we'd be, of course, if we were out and about, that would create a hardship to be able to move the discussion forward in the event we need some information as to how to do that. So those are just my 2 cents.
That would also apply to the meeting now, right?
Yes.
You're saying not to be in time and going that way.
No, I'm saying, you know, anytime we leave here, if we have to access a document or something that we're not in our boardroom where our offices are, it's going to create a hardship. But, you know, that's entirely up to you all. I'm just giving you some considerations from an administration standpoint that are strictly related to moving the meeting outside of the courthouse.
If we go to house, we use the town house commissioner's boardroom.
My concern is technology, have access to technology.
They'll be prepared there, but I'll give my 2 cents. I've been rolling it through my mindset of the pros and the cons. I guess it's just like me driving down from Highlands for every meeting. It's one of those things you got to do. If something is that important to you, come do it. So I don't think it's a necessity. It's a pleasure. If there's somebody in Highlands or Manhattan or any outlying community wants to come here, they have the opportunity. So personally, I don't think the pros are there that outweigh the cons. So I'm fine with leaving it here, but I definitely want to open it up for discussion.
I'm just saying, you know, that is on high school, but it's just a little more than another community like Holly Springs or Birdsdale. If we had one of Highlands, I think it'd be appropriate to share the same mistake.
Highland is a little bit different than municipalities. We work together with them on a lot of things, just like we do with town of Plankton. And we were partners on them on water system and many other things. So the municipality has their own elected board. This is totally different than a community, so it's not, in my opinion, or any outlying community, any community.
I think I understand and agree with a lot of what's being said. I think one thing that I keep remembering is when, this may not be a fair comparison, but when the planning board made the tour of the community, some of those meetings were very well attended. all of them. But without a doubt, whether it was very well attended or not, those in the community very much appreciate the fact that we made the effort to go. More than on one occasion, we were told that. I agree with the county manager, if there's a need for a document that's in his office, if we're in Highland, or wherever, we can't get to it very easily. When you look at, from a technology standpoint, we meet kind of islands, they've got fiber cable come in, so they've got full bandwidth in this building. All schools have a substantial backbone, so it wouldn't be, I think, the two IT departments could coordinate easily being able to turn that video. So, it certainly would take more effort on staff. I guess we just need to weigh out, it's important. I would be an advocate of having some meetings outside this room.
Well, another thing you got to remember, each one of these communities also has a meeting once a month, twice a month, both of them. They have a fire department meeting and then have a community meeting. You don't find out what's going on with the commissioners during one of those meetings. We're doing one that's 2 good months so far. You don't find out as commissioners, we can always bring back to this board or whatever the feelings are. It's your privilege to go to attend those meetings, community meetings. So that's another idea. Just attend the meetings in your district. There's plenty of them to attend. We got to have a new commissioner meeting. And the commissioner, this has been the commissioner board for how many years? 100? Yeah, me too. So I'm just saying it's a precedent. It's you take the planning board out, which you've done before. I did that too far. It's some you have 5, some you have 1, some you have 21.
Kind of like here. Same day we have.
Thank you. And you'll find out most things if they're interested, they will expect you to. You go this community meeting, you'll talk to them. Probably more so if you had a meeting.
I think a good reference would be to have the county manager talk about Bob at one time, school board met in the community. Before I was school board. And just like to have a little major stick on mine. That went away.
They still move Highland.
Right, all the spring here. But at one time, we would have a school board meeting, biggest in Franklin High School, and in other schools. I don't know why that quit. And I know Ronnie Crawford can tell you why that. And maybe some things we talk about here now that the population of people coming in, stuff like that. I'd like to know why that came back to the central office network again.
Yeah, I can do that too. It's a lot of times with the facility aspect of it, also instead we've got the business of the county to attend to, and then what's the setup going to be? How's the room going to be situated? Is it capable? If 90 people do come, obviously we're not sitting up here for 90 people either, but we can go to a courtroom. If we need a closed session, we have a room to go to a closed session. We have a closed session if we need to do that. Just think with the more factors that you have in addition to the business of the county, like you said, it would potentially create some problems in conducting that. And that's just logistics, nothing about just logistics.
If you go to the school, somebody has to open it up, somebody has to close it. So you're talking about
And schedule.
Schedule. Like that. That's what we're running into before we're trying to making sure everything was clean and done right, to make sure somebody's there to open the vote. You have to compensate that somewhere.
But if the pleasure of the board is to have the meetings in the community, we'll make it happen. That's not, I'm just merely putting my 2 cents in. We'll make it happen.
My suggestion, if we're going to Highland, we have respect, we should do that. And since they have a high school, they're more than just another little community. But if it's an agreement, which sounds like that there's not a flavor to do that, I'm willing to continue to be here for that.
It sounds to be consensus not gathered from somebody who will say next year if it's here, so.
Question for motion for adoption of
The April readings on the other budget.
You want to move April to them to be April the 3rd.
Let's leave it, let's
Let's
find.
leave that.
Yeah.
If you want to leave it as is, there'll be no need to do a publication, because basically we'll continue the schedule of meetings that you've had. If one of those days should fall on
How does that, how's that going to work?
November 13th is,
The 8th or the 6th, what we're going to last year. Make it 8th.
And just as a reminder, just as we'll continue this meeting to the joint meeting, where we will be hosting the joint meeting, then we rotate out to the town of Franklin. We'll host a joint meeting with the town of Highlands and the county, and then the town of Highlands will host a joint meeting with the county and the town. So we will get to those municipalities.
Section 8, first reading.
Motion.
We have a motion on the floor to approve as is, keeping on the second Tuesday, 2018, all right here. That works.
No adjustment needed by way of resolution and advertising.
We don't need to vote this with this consensus.
Well, I think it's fine, it doesn't hurt.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
But you're not changing, you're basically saying we're going to keep it the same.
Sounds good. Item 10B, change orders for the Robert C. Parker Community Building. We'll start with Arrowwood Construction first.
You have a change order in your agenda packet for Arrowwood Construction. This Arrowwood Construction has now completed their work at the Robert C. Carpenter Building. During the course of construction, however, there were some adjustments and changes. Tom, if you want to hit on those changes by Arrowwood Construction, that would be great. Tom, of course, is on it. Thank you for coming tonight, Tom.
What you got there is some additional work that could have been done by county staff and could have been done by other people, but we've had a lot of things come up, obviously, that you find when you get an existing building. One of them is for adding additional ceiling tile work. We've always anticipated to modify the ceiling grid, the ceiling tile that was there, but when we pulled it out, it turns out that a lot of the mains for the grid system had been modified or had to be modified, and so it got to be a little bit more complicated. A lot of the tile that got removed and replaced got damaged during the process, and we had to come back in and modify that as well. Additional tile request was just sloping some tile to the floor drains that were existing, and when we redid the tiles in the bathroom. The tower that's out in front there, we originally had it designed as a vinyl product going on there for economy sense, and since we don't have any vinyl on the rest of the building, we determined to remove that vinyl product, which is a credit, and replace it with a stucco product, which is, and we just use Portland cement stucco. We decided not to use the EFIS system, so that saved us a little bit of money, but it cost us more than the vinyl product that was there. Additional granite under the windows. We had granite sills on there, which the contractor had shown us that he did not have those included in his budget or in his pricing. We determined that we would pay for cost only for the material. He would be donating the labor, so that number had gotten negotiated to be a cost only for the granite sills. Additional baseboard and door requests. When we removed the baseboard in the multipurpose room and we're replacing it with a vinyl base, it didn't cover the edges of the terrazzo flooring in there. So there was a terrazzo and then mortar and grout that had to be concealed. So we had them install a 1-by painted black and then put the black vinyl base on top of that, so it all looks like it belongs. When we replaced the gutters, they determined there's a lot of rotted roofing up on top, which we had to repair that and replace the roofing area in those areas so it would flow into the gutter system. The deduct there for terrazzo floor, which is, they came in and polished the terrazzo in the flooring, and it was something that was unacceptable to us. They told us they gave us their best effort, so we had somebody do it and deducted it from their contract amount. And then they damaged the handicap push button with some of the acid that they had in there, so they had to replace that. They could have paid the vendor directly, but he wasn't an approved vendor, so the paperwork made it easier to put it in the deduct to a change order, and then us paid the vendor. It was silver glass. The windows and door guys that had to replace that push button. And that should be it on change orders for anything on the job, I think.
The total change orders at the amount of $12,462. When you add this to the revised contract sum of $297,121, this new change order will bring the total price of the contract to $309,500.
Motion to approve the change order. Motion to approve the second. Something here we don't know. Not sure.
Still in budget.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Say
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Change order number 2, Bryson Enterprises.
Bryson Enterprises, the original contract amount was $110,220.65. This change order is for $2,586.80, and is for additional asphalt for the new left lane at the traffic light. There's some additional area when the concrete slab was removed, as well on the north side of the building. So this contract is a square foot price that we got for the asphalt, and it was simply more square foot, and the paving by $2,586.80.
Motion to approve the change order. Straightforward.
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor? Aye. All business C, appraisal?
Yes.
Appraisal?
Received the appraisal on the 6 acres for the Southwestern Community College Fire Safety Training Complex on Siler Road. If you'll recall, in previous negotiations, we were to get an appraisal and they were to get an appraisal. We would then send those appraisals off to the state for review. Dr. Thomas forwarded that on to me today. If you'll recall, our appraisal for this 6 acres was in the amount of $375,000. The amount that the Southwestern appraisal came in at $386,000. So, it's pretty close on that. Feel good with those appraisals. And Dr. Thomas told me today all we'll need is a consensus.
Their first appraisal was what?
108. Each of these appraisals were done by North Carolina certified general appraisers, and we have a quality product. They do as well. They're close. So next step is just a consensus to send our appraisal into the state along with theirs and keep this project moving forward.
There's no need for motion, so consensus. Can you show hands? Okay. So they're on. Thank you, Derek.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to new business, consideration of agreement to provide recreation opportunities with the Green Community.
I'll speak to it just very briefly. Already have an agreement right now with Reed PD. These are story walks. Have you heard that term, story walks? There's one already on the Greenway, and this would allow for an additional stretch of the Greenway to be utilized for story walk. You might want to ask Brittany, she'll be able to answer the specifics of the product, but I think it's essentially going to be like what we already have.
The first year we put one at the rotary loop along the Greenway and one at Parker Meadows. And then this year we added one along the Highlands Greenway that connects to the Bascom. And then the other one that we have that's installed in this agreement is past the dog park down by Winston's Place. They just work with us on the project. We've met with Duke Energy to make sure there's not any problems with any of the easements there. Chester, we looked at the park with Chester and the Brockens.
Second, Mr. Gillespie, all in favor? Aye. Good work. Thank you. Awesome project. All right.
They being used?
Oh, yes. We have, we just switched them out. So the original one was at the Rotary, because they're all interchangeable, the stories are. So whatever book was there, it was first installed, and has since been switched. So the stories changed. Seth Adams with the rec department called me weekly to ask me to switch the book at Parker Meadows, not because the kids got tired of reading, because the adults that utilize that wanted a new story. And they're geared towards children, but the adults enjoy it just as much. So they get utilized often. We get pictures all the time of the kids out there.
They use that, you can see it every time you go.
And I'd have to thank, just to publicly thank Union Academy. They sent the students out there to help us actually switch those boards. There's 15 boards for every story walk that are installed with 4 elements head. So they brought students out to help us take the ones off of the Greenway, go to Parker Meadows, take those off, replace them, and clean them, and reinstall them. So we really appreciate them for doing that as well. We're excited to have another book put on put down by the Western Playground. And then next year we plan to do a map that'll show that we can put a Chamber of Commerce that shows where all of the boardwalks are, where all the little libraries are, and where our local library is, just to promote the literacy opportunities in Macon County. As well as hopefully put one at County School for a location picked out for next year.
Paid for to donation.
It is a community businesses, including Folk Network, who supported the Carpentry Wood and Tate Landscaping, both supported the one that will be installed. So Regionally funds it, and then we have partnerships with local businesses and community organizations that fund it.
Great. Moving on to the consent agenda. If there's anyone who might have something full, we'll pull it for further discussion. If not, we'll take a motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda.
Diane, are you here just about helpful, please?
And just in case you have any questions about it.
I didn't find the attachment. Oh, here we go. Off that.
So we'll pull that into discussion. Okay, let's just back.
Well, Jim, you're the liaison. Are you good with it?
I'm good with it.
No.
They're meeting, I missed, the meeting's the same, they met at 6 o'clock today, so I missed today's meeting, so.
Well, there's some of them I don't understand. There's some of them I've never heard of. I mean, does it?
So if you okay?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah. No, I'm good with it. I just haven't been able to see the attachment for just there.
Is it the IUDs that you've got questions on?
Are these new to the health department, or are they new to the health? Or the
Skyla and Carlina are both new IUDs. I gave
wait a
them
minute, I mean,
about halfway there.
I mean, I found that.
And then we've never had two different fees for the same procedure before, but these particular services, Medicaid tells us that we cannot charge more than what we pay for. So that's the reason they're listed twice. But insurance and our sliding fee scale would allow us to actually charge what our cost to provide the service would be, not just the cost of the device. So that's the reason there are two prices for each of those IUDs. And with that, even if somebody was paying out of pocket and they were a percent pay, they would still not pay more than $100. So some of them are very expensive, and we probably won't use them very often, but if you'll notice that stylist is for a small brain person, and we don't have that opportunity with the other ones that have been in production.
Board of Health approved all this.
They did.
Tetanus shot, that's a totally different tetanus shot.
No, the vaccines are all just increasing process. So if we don't act on, let's just take the shingles vaccine, for example. If we give as many shingles vaccines as we did last year, and we don't raise the price to cover the cost, we're going to be losing well over $1,000 just on that one vaccine.
Are we changing the vaccine or
Just price.
Further questions? Motion? I'm waiting on one.
Oh, okay, I'm motion. Motion to
Motion
approve.
approved. Second by Gillespie, all in favor? All right, we have some appointments. Derek, I'm going to bump us out of order here. I know the community funding goals will take a little more discussion. Let's go ahead and do the two that probably should. Let's do item B, the Highlands TDC. They're recommending two new members. One is in the posting of Wolfgang Green, term is expired. The other one, I'm not recollecting, but one of them was the town of Highlands representative, which I think Wolf knows. He was the town of Highlands representative. He's going to be the new one. He's replacing him. His term expired. And then the restaurant representative was Wolfgang, whose term expired. Now they're putting on Laura Huerta. Anyway, Brian's the town of Highlands, recommended by the town board up there. Laura Huerta is the chamber's nomination for Lakeside Restaurant. So I would recommend that we approve that motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to
As
approve.
recommended.
Second. Second, all in favor? Planning board, the town of Highlands is going to, it's recommended to place their, just like kind of Franklin does, place their town planner, zoning administrator, Andrew Bowen, to fill the Highlands area slot on the county planning board. Motion to approve. Motion to approve. Second, all in favor? Okay, go ahead. Community planning board.
A while back, we had discussed the community funding pool. They were having difficulty receiving applications. And in the current budget, the community funding pool distributes makes recommendations to distribute $75,000 to nonprofits throughout our community to this board. So it is an important board, an important part of our budget. And with the request of the chairman, I began kind of looking back with the assistance of Chester and Mike and Pam Ledford, and we have combed through minute documents, minute books to try to find and piece together how the community funding pool came about. It came about September 11th of 2000, and at that time, Jennifer Jones presented the recommendations to the commissioners for the Community Funding Pool Task Force. At this time, they recommended that the Community Funding Pool have a 12-member board with 2/3 representing nonprofits and 1/3 representing members of the community. Of the 2/3 representing the nonprofits, they designated Macon County Community Foundation, Macon Program for Progress, Peggy Crosby Center, and the Volunteer Council of Franklin. They designated that out of those 2/3, those 4 nonprofits were to each have 1 member. The why is not I have not been able to find that, why they designated those for nonprofits to have one member. With that being said, also the two county commissioners that sit on that board as well are not voting members, but there are 12 voting members, as I just said. So I got the applications, and what I found first with concerning the structure of the board, I need to make you aware of a few things. The Volunteer Council of Franklin, which had a designated member, no longer exists. So with that being said, what I would propose at this time to accommodate the number of applications that we have to serve on this board, which I'll go through right here in a second, to make this board a 13-member board and to move another nonprofit organization up into the ones that are designated, that only have 3 now. So you would move another nonprofit in, and just going down the list, REACH was right under it. So if you move REACH into one of the ones that had to have a designated member, that would leave us again with your 4 designated nonprofits. You would also have your 4 designated nonprofits. Then you would have 4 nonprofits and 5 representatives of the community. Now, I think what that will do is it's going to give us an odd number. Right now you have 12 voting members, so there's potential for a tie. And it will also add another community representative, where there's now 4, that would add 5, and it would kind of give you a better balance between the community members and those representing nonprofits. So it's kind of I look at it as a two-fold benefit. You have an odd number of members, and you would also increase your community membership by 1 on that board. So the first thing I think we should discuss is just that. If the board, after I've looked at that would be my recommendation. Now, in addition to that, as this board controls, or does not control, but recommends to the Board of Commissioners funding tied to the $75,000 we have set aside in the budget, Chester and I were talking, and right now where we're going back through the minutes and finding we've had to piece together how this board came about through minutes, it would probably be good and a good time if we could go ahead and make a set of bylaws for this board, something that we could have in concrete, that can kind of serve as a guide to them, as well as, assist us when we go back through this process again of reappointing members and things of that nature. We'll try to, as we look at that, try to embrace what they're doing and what has worked well in the past, along with anything else that in discussions with them that they feel are needed, in discussions with you all that you feel are needed. But while we're doing that, I think it's important that if we change the board to 13, move another nonprofit up into the volunteer council slot, which again is REACH. Then you're going to have, again, 4 designated nonprofits, 4 other nonprofits, and 5 community members, as opposed to 4 that serve now. And again, that will allow us better balance, I feel. It will allow you to break a tie. You'll have 13 members on that board. So if we do that, we can go ahead and get these folks appointed, let them go ahead and start the advertising process. You'll find as I'm reading through these names, there are a few people that have been on here that have been with this board since its inception, along with some new faces that will get acclimated to the way they're doing things. They have the application forms. We just need to get this advertised in the newspaper so we can get this process rolling for these nonprofit organizations. So if those changes that I mentioned, if we could go ahead and make those, we could get these members appointed tonight. And in the meantime, Chester and I, while they're advertising, getting all that out there, Chester and I could work together to bring some bylaws back to the board for consideration. participating.
It's time to move on.
So the names will be, at this point, I have received commitment from the Macon County Community Foundation. Haven't got that application in yet, so we will not need to worry about that tonight. Macon Program for Progress, that's a designated seat. Patrick Betancourt, Peggy Crosby Center, that's a designated seat. Robert E. Smith. Reach, if the board votes to make that a designated seat, Andrea Anderson. Then, your nonprofits that are not designated. Those four: Emily Ritter from the March of Dimes, Tyler Shook, Rotary Club in Highlands, Rick Westerman, Habitat for Humanity, Diane Cotton, Read to Me, Sheila Jenkins as a community representative, Bobby Contino as a community representative, Karen Wallace as a community representative, Jennifer Jones as a community representative, and Kyle Garner as a community representative. So that would be your 5 community representatives and your 4 nonprofits and then your 4 designated nonprofits. So I think the first thing we have to do before we approve these applications is approve the recommended changes that I suggested, which would be increasing the board membership to 13, moving Reach into a designated nonprofit slot, and adding a 5th community member.
Commission bylaws. Correct. For in doing your research, how did we ever get into a community funding group? How that forward taking tax funds and give them for allocating non-profits? What's the science or the logic behind that?
I think, somebody can help me on this, I wasn't here, but you have a lot of people coming to you as the leadership of the county asking for funds. And to get away from that,
We still do.
you're right, but I don't think we have as many people that comes down that far as you once did. I think I remember a little bit of reading about it and stuff like that. You had an influx of people that were coming all the time asking for X number of dollars. And so then we came back and we put some money in the food and let that people requested to somebody else and that later.
Also got a chance to look at all of those at one time instead of spread out through the year, understanding that there's a finite amount of money that we set aside to work on those public purpose projects through nonprofits. And I think the thought was that you might get that money where it needs to be a little bit better to consider all those applications.
And, that along with, the school of thought of, rather than providing a service and the government providing the whole service, if you give a nonprofit $3,500, they leverage that $3,500 with other monies they're getting, and they're able to provide that service, which otherwise the government can have, staff, supplies, everything else. That was kind of alluded to through the research and whatnot. But it came about in September 11th, 2000, and it was Commissioner Green made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Davis, and that is where they approved the community funding pool, 12-member board. That's where the 2/3 requirement from the nonprofit community, again with 1/3 being designated, 1/3 undesignated, as well as the 4 community members. That's where all those kind of skeleton of rules for this committee came about, and that really one, as far as the formation of the committee and how it's arranged, that's the only guidance that we have that through the year on that. But you can, as you look through the minutes and they're discussing things, you pick up common threads through that. And Commissioner Shields alluded to it. Chester and mentioned some of the same things that we found back whenever the funding pool would come and present recommendations. They would discuss the funding pool, the lines of the funding pool. Those are the common threads we seem to go through.
Did we strengthen the application process in 2007? We changed the application process because it was to make it more, so the committee would have something tangible to work with. Pressure on him for the Commissioner Shields might have a special. I mean, he's been involved with this kid's place for 30 years. So his alliance there is very strong. He would want, so Mr. Shields he's going to issue this advocate for a grant. And I've got something else, or we can have something else. He wants to advocate for his thing. This definitely will change the application process if you want to. And that made it pretty.
And what you're talking about, how do you, with members on the board, how do you cut out the conflict of interest?
Everything I had some discussion about that, and I think, in the absence of bylaws and Robert's Rules of Order going to be applicable, people who need to recuse themselves of code is basically what you have in place right now.
And I think you're exactly right. And, like you said, there are an application out there that is a very good application, very clear, and gets the information that we will need and they will need to make the recommendation. And you all will need to make the decision. But we just need to get these documents, the structure of this board. We need to get it formalized. So we have it in a document that the board's aware of, that each board's aware of, that we can continue this going forward, and we won't have a situation where one day we want to say, hey, we ain't got, there's nobody here to be a member, and we need to get all these applications turned in.
Of course, it's an advisory board, and so whatever recommendations they make, we'll have the opportunity to look at it and see any concerns. And all funding throughout the year has to come through this board, right? But that's the intention of it. I've seen it happen differently sometimes, but I think by and large that's what happens.
You don't have to. You can bring anything you want.
I think there's been some times where there were things that were extraordinary that need to be looked at before the next cycle came along and more dealt with. Like we need to advertise, we need this funding to advertise on the community that hey, you're a nonprofit.
They'll find the applications, that's no problem. They just created how many last time? 20 something? Put some applications.
Some pretty large, obviously, a lot of thought. And then just, you have concerns about that, and you think it needs to be that big to get every proper representation?
Well, again, I think you're going to have, just like with any of these volunteer boards, you're going to have, not everybody's going to be able to show up at things. And I think that gives you the ability to just have that many more opportunities to get somebody to be there. And I was trying to stay as close to what I had as far as guidance that I had from the past. I was trying to keep that as close as I could without totally confusing y'all. Worse than this is confusing me. And it's been.
Can you do it all in one motion?
I'm asking about the rule change first.
Motion to make the rule change, recommend the county manager.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And let's make a recommendation on that was 12. Correct.
That was 12. We had, we're waiting on the 13th application.
Let's get a motion to approve this order. Got a motion to approve. Second. Michelle, all in favor? Aye. That's it.
I have I've got a commitment from this individual. Again, it's a designated agency so I'll circle wag it back, but at least now, there's 4 people. There's enough to get started, enough to get to advertise, and we'll fund that.
That's it for this agenda. I think there is a need for closed session to preserve the attorney-client privilege. Correct, Jeff?
Yes, and also we discussed the possible acquisition of some real property and to direct county manager and county attorney as to how to deal with negotiations.
Are you expecting any action? And when we come out of our closed session, we are not going to be adjourning. We're going to be recessing our meeting until November the 28th. Tuesday, November 28th at 6 p.m. at the Robert C. Carpenter Community Building, located at 1288 Wood Road in Franklin, for the purpose of holding a joint meeting with the Franklin Town Council and the Town of Highland Board of Commissioners. So we'll recess.
David, when are you going in?
December 4th.
December 4th?
Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate any action after closed session?
No action after closed session.
Thanks, John.
Motion to go in closed session. Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Mike.
My team's doing it.